Well, joining me now to discuss that motion is the DUP's Gregory Campbell. Mr Campbell, Mitchell McLaughlin's point there, I think, is that your motion only deals with part of the problem of the past 4 decades. It's partial and it's partisan.
Well, what it is seeking to do is trying to open up the concept of dealing with the past. What we've had at the moment and for the past few years is a series of inquiries, inquests. There have been numerous opportunities for various provisional IRA spokespersons to own up to what they did. Each and every one of them, they've declined. The Deputy First Minister, indeed, on the Bloody Sunday inquiry, pleaded the Fifth Amendment. So every opportunity the IRA and their spokespersons have had to come clean on what they have done, they simply have declined to do so. So we want to move it now on to the government of the Irish Republic, who were at the birth of the Provost, and say to them, well, will you acknowledge and apologise for the part that you played during that birth and the subsequent movement across the border of IRA activists?
How could Enda Kenny apologise for something his government played no part in?
Well, his predecessor government was the government that set aside £100,000, half of which was used to procure arms for the fledgling provisional IRA. Now, if that's the case, if you can get a British Prime Minister like Tony Blair apologising for the famine of all things, hundreds of years before, why on earth could Enda Kenny not say, well, this is a much more relevant, much more pertinent and much more recent phenomenon which my predecessor was engaged in, and I would just like to acknowledge the part that we played. We shouldn't have done. Now let's move on.
Doesn't it play into the hands of the IRA and the Republican family more generally, though, in suggesting that it had the backing and active involvement of a sovereign government?
No, I think what it does do, it brings us back to the realpolitik of 1969, which was that a small number of Jack Lynch's ministers in his cabinet at the time colluded to finance the provisional IRA.
Yeah. Now, but as individuals, not as representatives of the government. That's the point, isn't it?
Well, there is conflicting evidence about that. But I think Enda Kenny could make a clean breast of it by saying, look, whatever happened, however it happened, our government should not have done the things that they did. And there are other things that they didn't do which they should have done, like securing the border, like extradition. That's not going to take an awful lot to do that. But it's going to be a clean breast. So he says, things happened, people died as a result of it. Now we've got to acknowledge that, apologise for any part we played in it, and move beyond it.
Doesn't it also overlook the fact that on the streets of the Republic of Ireland, Gardaí were being killed by the IRA? Well,
they were. And you would have thought that if that was the case, and it was, that the government then in the Republic would be all the more open to saying, look, we made a bad mistake. We messed up big time in 1969, and some of our own people, our own police officers died as a result. Even more reason I would have thought to apologise.
OK, very quickly, why now? Why all of a sudden do you want this apology?
Well, it's not all of a sudden. We've been working in this now for the last few years. As I said, we've had repeated attempts at inquiries and inquests. We seem to get nowhere except pursuing the police and the army in terms of what they did against the IRA. So let's see what the government that helped to form the IRA have to say about the part they played, as I said, as a midwife to that organisation.
OK, we'll leave it there. Gregory Campbell, thanks very much.